Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new episode of Great Books in 10 Minutes. In this episode, I will be analyzing Beowulf. Before we begin, if you are interested, you can now obtain the literary companion for this book and all other titles featured on this channel by exploring the links in the pinned comments. Each literary companion offers an in-depth plot chart, a written summary, and an analysis. You can also find my summary of Beowulf on the channel or through the links in the description box. As the first poem in the canon of English literature, Beowulf has had an enormous impact on the development of the English language, and its expansion of themes and techniques has contributed significantly to the emergence of various literary techniques and concepts in both the English language and Western culture. As one of the oldest and most complete surviving works of Old English literature, Beowulf introduced various literary techniques such as alliteration, kennings, and caesura, which later contributed to the distinct poetic style that characterizes English literature. Beowulf established the heroic tradition in English literature, focusing on the feats and exploits of a larger-than-life hero. This tradition was later embraced by other epic poems, such as The Faerie Queene by Edmund Spenser and Paradise Lost by John Milton. Beowulf, an enduring epic poem in the English literary canon, continues to captivate audiences due to its powerful themes, timeless story, and memorable characters. The poem's lasting appeal can be attributed in part to its exploration of universal themes that remain relevant in today's world. Most notably, Beowulf delves into the concept of heroism, proposing that individuals possess the ability to change the world through their courage, strength, and determination. By portraying Beowulf as a heroic figure, the poem inspires readers to contemplate the nature of heroism and consider their own potential to make a meaningful impact in the world. In essence, heroism in Beowulf is characterized by a combination of physical strength, moral fortitude, and unwavering determination to fight evil. The poem highlights the hero's willingness to risk his own life for the greater good, as well as his ability to inspire and lead others through his example. Beowulf's heroic actions also exemplify the values of Anglo-Saxon warrior culture, which prized honor, loyalty, and self-sacrifice. That said, Beowulf's journey throughout the story is not without an arc. In the early parts of the poem, Beowulf is presented as a brave and confident warrior who seeks to prove his strength and valor by defeating the monster Grendel. As the story progresses, Beowulf confronts increasingly difficult challenges, such as battling Grendel's mother and a fire-breathing dragon. Through these trials, Beowulf demonstrates not only his physical strength, but also his love and loyalty to his people. Beowulf believes that fate often saves an undoomed man when his courage is good, representing the belief that a person's destiny is determined by forces beyond their control and that the outcome of events is ultimately predetermined. The poem reflects the worldview that in the pre-Christian society of the time, people valued the idea of destiny as a guiding principle in life. In this quote, Beowulf suggests that fate can sometimes favor those who demonstrate courage and valor. While destiny might have already determined the ultimate outcome of a person's life, the poem implies that individual actions and choices still matter. A warrior's courage can influence the course of events and potentially lead to a more favorable outcome, even when the odds are against him. Beowulf's statement reflects the values of the heroic age, which prized bravery, honor, and loyalty above all else. The quote serves as a reminder to his fellow warriors that while they cannot control fate, they can still choose to act courageously in the face of adversity. It underlines the idea that even in a world governed by destiny, personal qualities like courage and determination can make a difference. Towards the end of the poem, Beowulf, who was once a young hero in search of glory and treasure, emerges as a wise and respected leader, celebrated for his accomplishment and adherence to the code of honor. Having achieved all there is to achieve, he faces his most important test. Is he willing to sacrifice himself for the future of his kingdom and his people? Will he embark on a battle knowing that he will most likely lose his life? Beowulf accepts his responsibility as the king of his people and says, Each of us must await his end. Afterwards life. Let him who may win glory ere death. This is the best for the unwary warrior when he is gone. Meaning, all of us will eventually die when the world comes to an end. Before that happens, we should try to do something great and become famous. This is the best thing for a brave warrior who does not get tired. When Beowulf sees the death and destruction that the dragon brings, he accepts the challenge and courageously says that he would rather burn than witness flames swirling around his people. He vows to fulfill his purpose, to prove himself with a proud deed, or meet his death in the mead hall. By Almighty God, I would rather burn than see flames swirling around my people. I will fulfill that purpose. Prove myself with a proud deed, or meet my death here in the mead hall. Beowulf's stand against the dragon concludes his journey and arc from a proud, self-centered hero to a king who stands against the destruction of his kingdom and sacrifices his life for his people. In his death, Beowulf embodies the values of heroism and self-sacrifice, leaving behind a legacy that inspires others to follow in his footsteps. According to Beowulf, a true king is defined by his loyalty to his subjects. The poem suggests that a king's primary responsibility is to protect and provide for his people. Only then can he expect and deserve their loyalty. This idea is well illustrated in Beowulf's rise to power and ascension to the throne. Beowulf did not have a birthright to the throne. After the death of King Helak in battle, Queen Haet, the wife of King Helak, offered the throne to Beowulf because the deceased king had only one underage son. However, Beowulf refused the proposal as he still adhered to the custom that a nobleman should hold the realm that he had gained while he was still alive and in his right mind. Instead, the hero swore an oath to faithfully defend and serve the crown prince Heodred until he came of age. Later, when Heodred was killed in an attempt to avenge his father, Beowulf was ultimately accepted as king with the blessing of his people. Then Heodred was slain with the sword's edge, son of Helak, nephew and lord of Beowulf, killed in battle by the bold Swedes. Then that broad kingdom fell into Beowulf's hands. He ruled it well for 50 winters. If we analyze Beowulf from an internal perspective and consider that the struggles he faces can be interpreted as a challenge within oneself, we can view Beowulf's struggles as a symbolic representations of internal conflicts that are common to human experience. In this perspective, Beowulf's enemies could be seen as personifications of negative traits that can hinder personal growth or lead to self-destruction if not overcome. For example, Grendel symbolizes various negative aspects of humanity, such as isolation, jealousy, and violence. Ironically, Grendel is a descendant of Cain, who killed his brother Abel out of jealousy. Grendel is introduced as an isolated monster whose isolation has led to his jealousy and hatred towards the Danes who gather together in Hrothgar's great mead hall Heorot to celebrate life and have a good time. Furthermore, his isolation has made it difficult for him to connect with others and find a sense of belonging. Seeing the camaraderie of the Danes agitates Grendel, and the sounds of celebration torture him. Therefore, he is desperate to destroy their togetherness as a people and force them into isolation like himself. With the same approach, we can look at Grendel's mother as the personification of hatred and revenge. An outcast like her son, Grendel's mother attacks Heorot, and after killing Ashera and taking Grendel's severed arm that Beowulf had hung in Heorot, she leaves to her lair in a dark, cursed lake. By associating Grendel's mother with the dark, cursed lake, the poet highlights her connection to evil and the darkest aspects of human experience. The lake can be seen as a metaphor for the innermost recesses of the human psyche, where negative emotions like hatred and vengeance reside. This interpretation underscores the idea that Grendel's mother represents the destructive potential of these emotions when they are unleashed. Furthermore, in this approach, we can argue that Beowulf's battle with Grendel's mother can be understood as a struggle against the dark forces within himself. By defeating her, Beowulf is also symbolically overcoming the negative aspects of his own nature, demonstrating the triumph of heroism, nobility, and self-discipline over destructive emotions. The dragon, perhaps the most complex of Beowulf's major obstacles, has been mostly associated with greed and materialism. The dragon is a beast that loves treasure and has been guarding it for 300 years after the last remnant of the lost race buried it in Geatland. In this sense, it represents the potential for greed to bring about a person's downfall and the suffering that will ensue as a consequence of that greed, both for the individual and the people around him. As an external threat, the dragon could symbolize the inevitability of death. The beast destroys Beowulf's kingdom with its flames, and even his throne room is not safe from his fire, symbolizing the reality that mortality spares no one, not even the most powerful. Before facing the dragon, Beowulf has a foreboding about his own mortality and must come to terms with it. The dragon could also be interpreted as the bringer of a new era and the destroyer of the heroic age. Beowulf, who embodies all the characteristics of a legendary hero, faces the dragon in his old age. However, the times have changed, and the arrival of Christianity has ushered in a new era, rendering the tales and beliefs of the pagan age as nothing but myths of a bygone era. The dragon's role as both the bringer of a new era and the destroyer of the heroic age highlights the inevitability of change and the passing of time. Even though Beowulf eventually kills the dragon, he sacrifices his life in the battle. All that remains of him is a mount for wanderers to marvel at and remember him and his deeds, as well as those of the once great heroes of the past. Very well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me in this literary journey. I hope you found my analysis both enjoyable and thought-provoking. I strive to offer a unique, out-of-the-box perspective on the subjects I explore, acknowledging that they may differ from mainstream interpretations. Remember, you don't have to accept everything I have shared. These are simply my personal thoughts, shaped by years of learning and passion for literature. If you would like to support the channel, consider becoming a member, liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your engagement helps keep this literary conversation alive. Until next time, keep reading and exploring the world of words.